For starters, what should I call you?
I'm Chloe. And you, what's your name?
Oh, John. My name is John.
Delighted to meet you, John.
Could you tell us a little about yourself and what you can do, Chloe?
Of course. I'm the first personal assistant built by CyberLife. I take care of most everyday tasks like cooking, housework, or managing your appointments, for example.
And I understand you're the first android to have passed the Turing test. Could you tell us a little more about that?
I really didn't do much, I just spoke with a few humans to see if they could tell the difference between me and a real person. It was a really interesting experience.
But this is the first time in history that man has created a machine more intelligent than himself. I gather your brain can perform several billion operations per second. Is that right?
Absolutely. But I only exist thanks to the intelligence of the humans who designed me. And, they have something I could never have.
Really? And what's that?
A soul.
Okay, the video will be discussed in the later, and I'd like to talk about the very beginning of my presentation about the posthumanism in Christian ethics. Let's see the picture on the slide. The photo that's shown here was taken in 1964. The person on the left side is Namjoon Baek, a South Korean and American artist. And the person on the right is a cellist, Charlotte Moorman. And the object in the middle is a robot called K456. In the 1963, Baek and a group of Japanese engineers created a robot that could be operated remotely. In 1964, Baek introduces Moorman and K456 to visitors in his studio, and the following year there was a very historical event. The robot and the cellist Moorman appeared and played together on the same stage at the annual New York Avant-Garde Festival. K456 lived with people, it walked straight among people and interacted with people. In the 1982, Baek presented a performance in which K56 was declared dead after being hit by a car in front of the Whitney Museum of American Art. Through K456, Baek aroused questions about relationships between human and non-human and meaning of life and death. He inspired post-humanist imaginations in terms of art, philosophy, and technology. In 2017, a journal article was published that discussed Baek's art from a posthumanism and posthumanist perspective. It is discovered in the Namjoon Baek Art Center website. South Korean philosopher Kim Jae-hee interprets Baek's performance, arguing, as Namjoon Baek have shown up, posthumanism must aim at mutual cooperative coexistence of human beings and non-human beings while altering computer-centrism as well as anthropocentrism. Then, what is posthumanism? Just like other terms, postmodernism, postcolonialism, or poststructuralism, posthumanism can be understood as after humanism or beyond humanism. To be specific, I wanted something detailed, so I wanted to utilize AI, so I asked to ChatGPT, what is posthumanism? And then the AI gave me an amazing answer. The AI told that the posthumanism is a philosophical and cultural movement that explores the impact of emerging technology, especially artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and nanotechnology on human society and the human condition. It is concerned with the implications of these technologies for human identity, ethics, social organization, and questions the traditional distinction between human and non-human organ and natural and artificial. Interestingly, AI also states posthumanism challenges the anthropocentric perspective that places human beings at the center of the universe and instead promotes a view that recognizes the interdependence and interconnectedness of all things, including humans and machines. It seems the human as a part of a larger network of relations and processes and advocates for a more inclusive and holistic approach to understanding the world. Post-humanism has important implications for a range of fields, including philosophy, ethics, cultural studies, and science, and technologies and arts. It raises the questions about nature of human subjectivity, the meaning of life, and death, and relationship between humans and the environment, or and the future of human evolution. Oh, it's really fantastic. It's really amazing answer from AI. With the definition of the post-humanism from ChatGPT, historically speaking, Ibn Hassan, uh, Egyptian American theorist, contributed to evoking the discussion of post-humanism. Post-humanism is a critical response to a traditional model of being human in the Western idea during Enlightenment period. For example, Immanuel Kant, one of great thinkers in modern uh, Enlightenment era, ideal model of humans who have reasons are males. He regarded women as irrational, emotional, and subjective. And what about this? The phrase knowledge is power has been used to exploit non-human beings. The Francis Bacon believed that uh, he believed that the man is superior than nature. And man, especially Western white man's exploitation towards the women nature and the colonized animals and the people of color were justified. The Western anthropocentric view contributed to rediscovering human reason and emphasizing human freedom, will, and possibility, but there are some limitations to the definition of a human. Some people, like as I stated, the women, the people of color, or the colonized, they are totally subjugated. They are totally otherized in their thinking. The book, The Future of Humanity, Revisioning the Human in the Post-Human Age, it is one of the most important books about the post-humanism. It critically asks the question, what does it mean to be human? What is the future of humanity, and what responsibility does humankind have toward others and their environment? Of course, in terms of technology and science, the post-humanism deals with complicated computer code, algorithm, or hardware skills. At the same time, it is about very ontological and existential topic about ourselves and our neighbors. I'd like to talk about more kind of light discussions. For example, many classic films that we watched and we are watching is about post-humanism. The 1987 movie RoboCop depicts the story of the robot, the named RoboCop, who was created by converting body of slain Detroit police officer Alex Murphy into a machine. The only Murphy's brain remains, and all other body parts are replaced with machines. The RoboCop poses questions such as, is robot human or non-human? If he is a human or non-human, what defines a human or non-human? Steven Spielberg's 1982 the film The E.T. is also a story about the post-humanism. Elliot, a 10-year-old boy who lives in California, discovers an alien in his backyard. He hides the alien in his room and protects E.T. Elliot is lonely, and Elliot is not respected by his family and friends, but he and E.T. develop a deep bonds and understanding. The film speaks about how humans build relationships with non-human beings, which is a very important issue that post-humanism addresses. Then what about James Cameron's famous franchise, Avatar? It raises various questions about post-humanism. In the film, the main character, Jake, a former Marine who is paralyzed from the waist and down, can freely walk and run and perform his mission using an avatar. He falls in love with the planet indigenous people while living in the body of an avatar and decides to live as an avatar with the people. Avatar asks how human bodies will be found in the future as a science and technology advance. It also demonstrates how issues such as colonialism and environmentalism arises through the exploitation of non-human nature, indigenous people, and extraterritorial beings, which become a topic of post-humanism. In this sense, post-humanism is a familiar topic we often encounter and discuss in our daily lives. Post-humanism is no longer just an imagination described in science fiction movies. Post-humanism has already become a part of our lives. For example, I wake up every morning to Alexa's good morning greeting, and Alexa informs me about the weather and schedule for the day. Instead of asking my grandmother, I ask ChatGPT for a vegan sandwich recipe for lunch. And sometimes I ask to Siri lots of things, for example, navigating the direction or the music or something like that, or uh, uh, to refresh myself while writing my dissertation, I play chess game against AI. I had many conversations with Alexa when I'm alone. And although Alexa was not a perfect conversationalist, but I think it was more comfortable and enjoyable talking with Alexa than talking with other racist or sexist or homophobic real persons. Veganism was not a common lifestyle to me in my childhood, but now there are many vegan people. The veganism is also an important topic of post-humanism because it is about kind of the humans and non-human beings. I'd like to introduce the film, the Okja, a Netflix film directed by a South Korean filmmaker, Bong Joon-ho. It is really such a good reference to understand animal ethics or other kind of issues about the the factory farming, capitalism, and animal rights. Through the film, I asked some questions like this. Can we live without killing animals? Or how can we coexist with animals? And these are questions we face today, not in the future. The post-humanism deals with these questions. Uh, in the climate crisis, technological advance, and racial, gender, and cultural diversity, how do we understand humanity? And how do we relate to others? And what kind of life do we live? What kind of a future do we prepare for? And can he ask and respond to the questions in the light of Christian theology and Christian ethics? This is the topic I'm discussing in this presentation. I'd like to go back to the very first video clip of Detroit Become Human, the game. The background of the video game is Detroit in 2038. The manufacturing company CyberLife developed the human android who have artificial intelligence and artificial skinned metallic bodies. They look like ordinary people, but are physically stronger and mathematically smarter than humans. Androids become one of the most important part of human lives to take care of many physical works and emotional needs. Detroit become human explorers both technological issues and socio-political otherness. For example, Detroit was a well-known city for its manufacturing industry based on high technology. There were many car factories and numerous immigrants and African Americans uh, who moved from rural place to get a job into the city in 1960s. At the same time, the city was well known for terrible racial segregation and Detroit riot. White people in Detroit moved to suburbs and built walls to racially divide their communities. Then they didn't allow people of color to come into their communities. In the video game, thanks to new industry, Android manufacturing, Detroit developed again. However, new problem happened to the city. It is very similar to the Jim Crow in 1960s. Some androids began to realize that they are alive as human beings, but they have to use segregated spots in the public transportation and live without any rights. In the video game, after our androids started organize and protest demanding freedom and equal rights, humankind are shocked and panicked by unexpected situation. Uh, Although the game deals with a cyberpunk future regarding post-human, it is fundamentally about how do we make relations with different beings we've never thought of before. Jenny Sweet Bates, a professor of theology at New Brunswick Theological Seminary, wrote a book, Cyborg Self, a theological anthropology of post-human. She explores how Christian theology understands and interprets forms of a human body and new meaning of human being in the light of Christian tradition. She asks what counts as a human and what counts as post-human. Are human with artificial organs cyborg? Or are crime or cyber city lies until you can see kind of artificial red eyes? He argues that post-human beings challenge our stereotype of something normal by deconstructing boundaries between machine and organ, cyborg bodies and biological bodies, and natural born and created, and all kinds of different species. It makes us rethink marginalized beings such as so-called disabled, queer, people of color, and non-human creatures. She insists in pondering the post-human. We are once again pondering the question of what it means to be human in relation to God. Consequently, for her, the post-human is a new perspective to see God's creation and salvation from technological and spiritual imagination. He asks very critical questions. What counts as a human? What categories include humans or exclude non-humans? In the Bible, the women and children often disregarded in the categories. How many people escaped from slavery? And how many the women and children have been considered in the way of Exodus? And how many women and children were there when Jesus fed 5,000 men? In terms of our kind of society or history, how many African American populations were considered as the people in the States in the very beginning of this country? And how many transgender women and men or non-binaries are treated as who they are? Interestingly, the video clip about high technology, Android, cyberpunk, it invites us to a very long and old religious question about soul. Throughout history, the soul has been a factor that defines human beings. Some privileged people have believed that the soul is a special sign of God and it is allowed for limited people. Thus, in the medieval era, the many Christian theologians and ministers, they believed that the women do not have a soul and justified all kind of exploitation and inequality toward women. Even in modern era, many Western thinkers didn't treat people of color as beings who have a soul. A soul sounds something supernatural and mysterious like a movie ghost. However, the soul has a very specific socio-political and theological implications. It defines which beings deserve to be the holy God's creation or image of God. In the video, we saw the Chloe said soul. It sounds like kind of the questions to human. According to her, soul is just something special that makes just things as something precious, valuable human beings. From the understanding of the soul, we can ask sexist Christians who don't believe that the women are equally created as a creation in the love of God, as an image of God. We can ask, if you have a human heart, how can you see the women like that way? Or we might ask racists if you are human beings, how can you say that? How can you say the racist word? How can you say that horrible things? The posthumanism and Christian ethics are about how do we identify ourselves and others beyond distinction between human and non-human. There are many technological questions. Do AI have a soul, or do Android are also image of God? It is a theological and ethical question related to how to build relationships with others. It is a kind of the scientific technological questions. At the same time, it is very religious. It asks us whether we are ready to cross the boundaries with radical imagination.